By 2006, SmackDown vs Raw had established itself as the gold standard for wrestling games. But it wasn't just the gameplay that stood out, right? It was the music. The 2006 edition of the game, SmackDown vs Raw 2007, featured a soundtrack so perfect, so flawless, and so perfectly tuned to the era that it became a defining feature of the game and the time period itself. In 2006, I was a 7-year-old that really only cared about a handful of things. Captain Underpants, Pokemon, the recession that was about to hit, and WWE, obviously. Anything else didn't even matter. In those years, I would be playing video games while my parents were probably stressed out about the economy or like something silly like that because my dad lost his job or whatever. Like, okay, I got a WWE game to play, come on, real stuff. Anyways, as a 7-year-old little boy, I was in love with the WWE, and I still love it to this day, still watch it, watch all the events and stuff. I love it. I even found something, not that long ago where I wrote in the 1st or 2nd grade where I said it was my dream to be a WWE commentator. Not a wrestler for some reason. Clearly that never happened and I don't have the voice for it, but imagine me yelling. I know, I can't imagine it either. So think about a 7-year-old me when SmackDown vs Raw 2007 dropped. And the game was a masterpiece, alright? You already know the video is about the soundtrack. Let's take a minute to just talk about how good the gameplay was. Literally everything in this game is a 10 out of 10. The wrestler selection was peak. The loading screens were iconic. And even the gameplay just felt so good. As a kid, you would literally imagine yourself jumping from the top of the steel cage while you were playing. You were playing a video game. It had that level of immersion. Something about WWE and the SmackDown vs Raw series had me and my brother doing sweet chin musics on each other and jumping off the bunk beds. Even though, they said don't try this at home, we had to try it at home, right? Reverse psychology, obviously. You don't even know how many championships I took from my pillow and how many Money in the Banks I cashed in at home. Literally too many to even count. Now let me set the scene of what SmackDown vs Raw 2007 came out to, alright? Let's just close your eyes and let me set the scene for you. It was the end of 2006. Wrestling was at the last peak before now, because now it's at a whole new peak. It was heading towards the end of what was called the Ruthless Aggression era, which a lot of people consider one of the best eras in wrestling.
Oh, come on! Go for the bucket! The bucket! Bono, don't do it! Oh my God! Yeah! Look out here! Oh, God! Over the top rope! It's almost around! I think that little bastard had another shillelagh!
I would have to agree. You had wrestlers like John Cena, Randy Orton, The Undertaker, Kane, CM Punk, and just so many more fighting, and it would literally be another Monday night or Friday night. At the time, it literally would feel like a normal match on SmackDown or Raw could be a pay-per-view match. Now in the US, we were also headed to a recession, which as a kid you might have felt like something was going on, but you didn't really know what.
The signs were everywhere, but now it's official, we are in a recession. The research group that makes that determination made it today and said the recession actually started a year ago. But the question now, when will it end?
I think this really also helped make video games from these times feel even more special. Video games now are used as an escape, but imagine that during a recession, all you got is a little video game, maybe things are going on at home, but you got that copy of SmackDown vs Raw 2007. That's all that mattered. In terms of music, rock and rap were dominating the music scene, which I think is pretty obvious. They still dominate the music scene today, but while the popularity of rock might have died out a bit since then, rock during that time was insanely popular. So that brings me to video game music.
Shout out what you drink, I got money in the bank. Shout out what you drink, I got money in the bank. Shout out what you drink, I got money in the bank.
Now, there's one specific game that I feel is truly responsible for popularizing video games having amazing soundtracks. And I mean that from like licensed songs, not from like their own original soundtracks. But that's for a later video. There's probably a hint behind me, but it's coming up, don't worry, all right? So I won't even mention it in this video. But yeah, keep the hint behind me, and if I'm feeling generous, actually, there's a hint behind me. With the release, what, like a year before maybe, Guitar Hero was a game that really showed video game developers that music and video games were mutually beneficial. And no, that's not the game that I was talking about before, but this is a very, very, very honorable mention. But that, along with the success of sports games having licensed tracks, made more video games continue having licensed songs, all right? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It would bring lots of eyes to the artist, and it would also give the player an even more enjoyable experience. Which in 2024 is crazy that the developers would care about the player having an enjoyable experience, right? Right? So not only that, but to continue painting the scene, close your eyes again, all right? I do feel like video games were targeting this kind of MTV generation, and I mean the MTV generation that mixed pop culture and music. I'm doing this a lot with my hands. There's a lot of meshing going on, right? Like, I'm talking about reality TV with music. Because even though MTV has only like Catfished and Ridiculousness playing these days, literally 24/7 too, back then I think there was definitely more of a mix. Like, there was reality TV shows, of course, but there was also a lot of music. You even had shows like Cribs that featured a ton of music artists, and even Pimp My Ride, which had a rapper as a host. Like, a lot, I don't know, some people might not even know that Exhibit was a rapper. But even shows like Viva La Bam, that put me and a ton of other kids onto bands like Him and CKY, and had Bam, the main person of the show, who loved and still loves music to this day. If you go on his Instagram, he's always shouting bands out, all right? It felt like during that time, music and TV culture were one and the same. I'm gonna do it again with my hands, all right? So it made sense that video games would start working with artists to get their songs in games, especially because I'm sure a lot of these artists were fans of video games to begin with. I'm sure a lot of artists love the WWE games. They love WWE. They love some of these wrestlers. So it would be great to have their song in a game. Now, the WWE at the time also had a big emphasis on music as well. I mean, a lot of wrestlers had real songs as their entrance songs, and not Def Rebel, who has mostly misses. So, you know, thankfully they're allegedly going away, I think. So that's a, you know, fingers crossed that's true. But at the time, they had many rock songs as the songs for pay-per-views too. I mean, just a few years before this game came out, Limp Bizkit performed The Undertaker's theme song at WrestleMania. And Fred Durst from the band was one of the most famous people in the country. So if that doesn't set the scene of where rock was at the time, I don't know what will. I know what you're gonna say, all right? I know what you're gonna say. Bro is yapping. I came here for the video game soundtrack, not to hear this dude yap. And to that, I'll say, you know, patience is a virtue. You know, bear with me, okay? Please bear with me. Maybe I'm just passionate, all right? I'm just passionate. But anyway, Smackdown vs Raw 2007 soundtrack. Let's go, come on.
Train rolling down the line makes me lonely. Sometimes I wish.
So loading up the game and getting into it, you would immediately be hit with a banger. It was either the Raw theme song or the Smackdown theme song, both of which are bangers, and even the videos that go along with them are bangers. 10 out of 10s. Honestly, I didn't mind getting either one. Both were so good, and they really set the tone for what the game was gonna sound like. Like, literally the second, you know, you get out the PS2 loading screen, you get into the game, it really just set the tone. Then you get into the start screen and the menu, and the bangers just continue. Like, remember loading into the game and hearing this song for the first time? Three Days Grace is a band I'm sure I and many others heard for the first time in the Smackdown vs Raw game, right? Animal I Have Become is most definitely, like, I don't even think there's a doubt in my mind that that is the staple of the game soundtrack for a lot of people, and I can't blame them. The song is great. It's a banger. 10 out of 10. I keep saying 10 out of 10. Everything in this game is a 10 out of 10. It's literally the perfect wrestling game. I'm not entirely sure why, but something about this song just like fits the vibe of the game so perfectly, and it fits the vibe of the WWE so perfectly. The edginess of the songs and it being a rock song made it feel perfect for a WWE video game, or even if it was just for a WWE pay-per-view, it would have been perfect. So this game, along with maybe, you know, like a few Nightcore versions of their songs, truly made me a lifelong fan of 3 Days Grace to this day. That's what lifelong means, right? Even through the singer change and now them having both singers, as of this video being up, you know, they have a new song with both out. Yeah, I'm still a fan of them. I do think that without 3 Days Grace, while the soundtrack was still amazing, it would not have been as memorable. 3 Days Grace is definitely the most memorable for a majority of people. They not only had the song Animal I Have Become, but they also had the song Riot. Two songs from one band in a video game. That's how you know 3 Days Grace was really them. They were them. And they really had that oomph, that pizzazz that the game needed, you feel me? Next, we had the band Rise Against with their song Survive. This is another band that, although I'm sure I would have eventually heard because I was listening to rock all the time, I did hear this band for the first time on this song. I'm pretty sure, all right? I was young, but I'm pretty sure here was the first time I heard Rise Against. I even saw them perform like 10 years ago, which is crazy to think that stems from a video game. Like, I would have probably never seen this band live. You know, maybe like not say never, but there's a high chance I would have never seen this band live if it wasn't for a wrestling video game from 2006. Because of this game, I went out and I actively started to search for songs from these bands and ended up liking and still listening to a lot of them. It's funny because I don't even think this is Rise Against's best song. But because I liked it, I found so many more songs by them that I think are even better than the song that was in the game. So that's crazy to say, right? Now, one of the best parts about SVR 2007 was that the game had a mix, I'm doing it again with my hands, of both rap and rock. And although I will admit, the game was very rock driven with way more rock songs than rap songs. It did have at least a few rap songs. And those rap songs that it did have were bangers, all right? 10s out of 10s. You probably just heard Champ by Ghostface Killah, and to me, when I hear that song, I feel like it would be perfect for like making sports edits. You know, there's memes about 15-year-olds making fire-ass basketball edits. And I feel like a 15-year-old can make an absolute banger of a basketball edit to this song. Any 15-year-olds watching this, please make a basketball edit to this song, please, I'm begging you. I also want to say, I've been going to the gym a lot more recently, and I was listening to the Smackdown vs Raw 2007 soundtrack while working out to try to come up with things to say in this video. And that song that I just played for you guys literally got me so hype. I definitely recommend using the soundtrack of this game to work out. Now, I do want to take a break from talking about the soundtrack that was curated for the video game and talk about some wrestler entrance themes. I also consider the wrestler entrance themes to be part of the soundtrack. If you really think about it, you know, you hear them while playing the video game. So I think they count as being part of the soundtrack, all right? Now, like I mentioned in the start of the video, at the time we had wrestlers like John Cena, you know, who was rapping his own theme songs. Kane with a theme song by Finger 11, a rock band. and so many more. At the time too, as a kid, you know, we really thought all our favorite wrestlers were in the stew cooking up their own songs that they would come out to when they wrestle. Like they were really in the studio cooking up the most fire songs. Like Big Show, we thought as kids was really in the booth going,
Well,
and I know I have beautiful vocals, all right? No need to compliment me. But I think that really shows like how perfectly picked the theme songs were for these wrestlers. So many kids really thought that the wrestlers made their own theme songs because they just matched that perfectly. Like nowadays, a lot of people even forget whose theme song is who because Def Rebel makes them so generic and horrible. But we really have to cherish those times, you know? Hopefully eventually WWE, I know there's rumors that they'll go back to using like actual songs as theme songs, so fingers crossed. But I remember sometimes like after a match on the game, just leaving it there so I could hear the wrestler theme keep playing. I mentioned even doing this in my FIFA video, which if you haven't watched, go check that video out after you're done watching this one, all right? Please, after, I'm begging you, please. I feel like I really wouldn't do that these days with video games, and it probably has something to do with the rise of streaming services. Like back then, I guess you had LimeWire, but for the most part, a lot of people still listen to the radio and bought CDs. So having a video game soundtrack was literally like having your own playlist or a mixtape, right? Of a great collection of songs. But at the same time, you could also play a great game at the same time. Great songs and a great game. The hand thing, again. Now listen, I can make this video dumb long and talk about every song one by one. But I won't do that to you, so maybe I talk about maybe one or two more songs. We'll see how the vibe is, alright?
red eyes, just keep my heart beating, your secret safe with me. Just right.
The vibe called for one more song. So I want to talk about the song Forgive Me by Versus the World. To me, this song is the absolute sleeper of the game. And I mean that in the sense that when you talk about this game, a lot of people think about the bigger artists of the game, like 3 Days Grace. But this song was from a band that was not as known. And I mean, apparently they had only released their debut album in 2005. So probably when this game started getting developed. To me, this is one of the best songs in the game and deserves so much recognition for being able to stand out, at least to me, in a soundtrack with some pretty big names like 3 Days Grace and Ghostface Killah, okay? Those are big names. At the time, they were huge names. So to be able to stand out in such an amazing soundtrack, it says a lot. Now, in general, the Smackdown vs Raw 2007 soundtrack truly shaped a lot of people's music taste. And I would include myself in that, 100%. Even though I was listening to rock before Smackdown vs Raw 2007, and I'm sure I would have without Smackdown vs Raw 2007, you know, after. I even had Smackdown vs Raw 2006, which had a lot of rock songs, like Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth, one I can name off the top of my head. There was just something about Smackdown vs Raw 2007 that was like eye-opening, you know? It changed my music taste literally forever. Anyways, what's your favorite song from SVR 2007? And which SmackDown vs Raw game do you think had the best soundtrack? For me, SVR 2007 wins without a doubt. Like, there's no competition for me, but maybe others feel differently. And also, what's your favorite wrestler? What's your favorite wrestler's theme song? You know, start asking your own questions in the comments and answer them, all right? I could ask you guys a million questions. I'm really interested in this. I told you, I'm passionate. But what's your favorite wrestler and what's your favorite wrestler theme song? That's a good question too. But if you did like the video, please leave a like and leave a subscribe, please. All right. If you like and subscribe, I will join AEW and I will wrestle Big Justice. I mean Big AJ. Okay, I meant Big AJ. Okay, bye.